Answers from Philosophy. Consideration of life's meaning has occupied the minds of history's greatest thinkers, from Plato to Einstein. Greek philosophers. According to Plato's The Republic, 375 BC, the purpose of life is the pursuit of knowledge of the idea of the good. Plato considered this ideal to be the source of all good things: knowledge, beauty, truth, justice. Plato's student, Aristotle, believed the highest aim for humans is eudaimonia, a Greek word embodying happiness and well-being. Quote, "What is the highest good in all matters of action? To the name, there is an almost complete agreement, for uneducated and educated alike call it happiness, and make happiness identical with the good life and successful living. They disagree, however, about the meaning of happiness." End quote. Aristotle in Nicomachean Ethics Ne 1-4, 340 BC. Aristotle recognized that happiness means different things to different people, and even to the same person in different times. After sickness it is health, and in poverty it is wealth, while when they are impressed with the consciousness of their ignorance, they admire most those who say grand things that are above their comprehension. Epicurus believed that intrinsically, pleasure is the only good and pain the only evil. He taught that the best life is free of fear and free of pain. Quote, "When we say, then, that pleasure is the end and aim, we do not mean the pleasures of the prodigal or the pleasures of sensuality, as we are understood to do by some through ignorance, prejudice, or willful misrepresentation. By pleasure we mean the absence of pain in the body and of trouble in the soul." End quote. Epicurus in Letter to Menesius, circa 300 BC. Middle Ages. The 8th century Buddhist monk Shantideva advocated an effort to stop all the present and future pain and suffering of all sentient beings, and to bring about all present and future pleasure and happiness. Shantideva wrote the Bodhikaya-avatara, which is popular in Tibet to this day. The Dalai Lama called it his favorite religious work. Quote, "I should dispel the misery of others because it is suffering just like my own, and I should benefit others because they are sentient beings, just like myself." End quote. Shantideva in Bodhikaya-avatara 8. 94, circa 700 AD. One of the great works of Middle Age philosophy is Summa Theologica, or Summary of Theology, by the Christian theologian Thomas Aquinas. It remains a cornerstone of Catholic thought and teaching. Aquinas wrote that perfect happiness cannot be found on earth, and only comes with a future union with God, the universal good. Quote, "It is impossible for any created good to constitute man's happiness. For happiness is the perfect good, which lulls the appetite altogether, else it would not be the last end, if something yet remained to be desired. Now the object of the will, i.e. of man's appetite, is the universal good, just as the object of the intellect is the universal true. Hence it is evident that naught can lull man's will, save the universal good." End quote. Thomas Aquinas in Summa Theologica, 1485. Aquinas advocated that on earth man lead a life of virtue, which he defined as having a good habit, productive of good works. Enlightenment. The Enlightenment was marked by the introduction of the scientific method, and a rejection of absolute monarchies. In their place emerged constitutional governments with powers limited by law, supporting individual rights, liberty and religious freedom. Liberalism. John Locke was one of the greatest influences behind this transition. He is considered the father of classical liberalism, the idea that protecting individual liberty and balancing the rights of individuals across society is the highest aim and mission of government. Locke's writings influenced the founders of the United States. Thomas Jefferson considered Locke, together with Bacon and Newton, to be the three greatest men that have ever lived. In the Declaration of Independence, Jefferson quotes Locke almost verbatim when he wrote that men possess unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty and the pursuit of happiness. As Aristotle noticed millennia before, people have different conceptions of happiness. By ensuring individual liberty, each person is free to pursue happiness in the manner they see most fit. Utilitarianism? The Enlightenment witnessed other rediscoveries of old ideas. Channeling Epicurus, the philosopher Jeremy Bentham wrote, quote, "Nature has placed mankind under the governance of two sovereign masters, pain and pleasure. It is for them alone to point out what we ought to do as well as to determine what we shall do. On the one hand, the standard of right and wrong, on the other the chain of causes and effects, are fastened to their throne." End quote. Jeremy Bentham in The Principles of Morals and Legislation, 1780. Bentham referred to the inherent value of either promoting happiness or avoiding unhappiness as utility, which he defined as, quote, "By utility is meant that property in any object, whereby it tends to produce benefit, advantage, pleasure, good, or happiness, all this in the present case comes to the same thing, or, what comes again to the same thing, to prevent the happening of mischief, pain, evil, or unhappiness to the party whose interest is considered. If that party be the community in general, then the happiness of the community; if a particular individual, then the happiness of that individual." This view is called utilitarianism. It is the idea that the motivation behind all rightful action is based on maximizing utility. Modern times. Before Charles Darwin's 1859 publication of On the Origin of the Species, the appearance of life and order in nature could only be explained by the existence of some divine plan or design. Modern philosophies seek meaning in life that arose naturally, some might say accidentally, without a divine purpose, reason or intention. Nihilism? Friedrich Nietzsche believed that the idea that God is dead leads to nihilism, a denial that life has any meaning, purpose or value. Quote, "A nihilist is a man who judges of the world as it is that it ought not to be, and of the world as it ought to be that it does not exist. According to this view, our existence, action, suffering, willing, feeling, has no meaning." End quote. Friedrich Nietzsche in The Will to Power, published in 1910. While nihilism rejects the value of life, materialist and naturalist philosophers reject only a purpose to life. In Richard Dawkins's The God Delusion, James Watson, the co-discoverer of DNA, embodied this view when he said, "I don't think we're for anything. We're just the products of evolution." Many biologists now believe that if life has any inherent meaning, it rests only in terms of the propagation and survival of genes. Einstein, however, rejected the view that life is meaningless. Quote, "What is the meaning of human life, or, for that matter, of the life of any creature? To know an answer to this question means to be religious. You ask, does it make any sense, then, to pose this question? I answer. The man who regards his own life and that of his fellow creatures as meaningless is not merely unhappy but hardly fit for life." End quote. Albert Einstein in Mein Weltbild, My Worldview 1934. Humanism. Defying Nietzsche's prediction, humanism is a non-religious philosophy that recognizes value and purpose in human existence. Quote, "Humanism is a progressive philosophy of life that, without supernaturalism, affirms our ability and responsibility to lead ethical lives of personal fulfillment that aspire to the greater good of humanity. We aim for our fullest possible development and animate our lives with a deep sense of purpose, finding wonder and awe in the joys and beauties of human existence." End quote. The Third Humanist Manifesto, 2003. Naturalistic pantheism. Rather than see no meaning in the natural world, naturalistic pantheism finds meaning in all of it. It reveres all life everywhere, as well as the universe and environment that make life possible. Naturalistic pantheism can be viewed as a broadening of humanism to bring respect for the rights and lives of all creatures. Paul Harrison, who launched the world pantheistic movement in 1997, advocates an active respect and care for the rights of all humans and other living beings. According to this view, the meaning of life is to care for and respect nature, the environment, and all forms of life.